Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, YAHAWAH, BaHa, SHAM, YAHAWASHI, BaHa, SHAM, RAWCHAA, QADASH. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect. And I wanted to do a response to this video. It was a clip taken from the YouTube channel, Rethinking the Dollar. All right, which you have this brother here. He goes into, he follows the money. He goes into the banks. He's pretty much telling you where money is going. All right. And he himself is a Christian, but he allows particular people to call in and give their breakdown and perspectives, and he lets them talk. He doesn't take any sides. Israelites have called in, but I believe he knows that, the MOTB is tied to everything that's happening with the money. All right. And a lot of people call in and say that. All right. But I know Apostle Tahar likes to watch this brother. He's diligent in that area. So in this clip, you have a guy calling in, and he's going to give his perspective on Babylon the Great, and then he's going to go into Daniel, the 7th chapter, and at that point, I had to cut it off and just do a video. Now, like I said, he allows people to call in. And see, everybody's talking about prophecy now. Everybody wants to be a Bible scholar. Everybody wants to try to go into, the books that Christians and, particular people never even talked about. They didn't talk about these things, but the spirit of prophecy is out there, so they are. And, it's all good. It works in our favor. It's a point where we can, edify, listen to what they say and edify on what the truth of it is. So it all works in our favor at the end of the day. But, people are making a fool of themselves trying to go into these books. Revelation, Ezekiel, Revelation 13, Revelation 14, 15, Daniel 7. They're making fools of themselves because they don't understand the volume of the book. Okay, and ultimately they're snared. So they think they believe in the Bible, but the Lord has them to where they're ensnared. Okay, they've stumbled at the stumbling block, which is YAHAWASHI now. And he's fulfilled in prophecy. These people don't understand prophecy. So let's listen to this dude who called in, and we'll see how we can edify. Just off the top, we'll see what he says, and then we'll go from there.
Steve, FEMA Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, my man? Give me a quick thought.
It's all scriptural. All the stuff's laid out. It's all laid out. Hey, first thing though, that we can get off the table real quick. Mystery Babylon. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's the U.S. It's the U.S." It's not the U.S. All you got to do is, you don't have to be a Bible scholar or anything. Mm-hmm. Just use whatever search engine you want to use, and just type in King James Bible Mystery Babylon. Mm-hmm. It clearly states that it's a city. Over and over again, mm-hmm. It states it's a city.
So you heard him. All right, we'll go back to him, and he says pretty much when you go into Revelation the 17th chapter, and when you read about Babylon the Great, it's likened into a great city, which it is. And the Bible speaks in symbolism, but America is a great, gigantic city. It's filthy. All right, it's ultimately and they have city states. But overall, when you go and you use the volume of the book, it's crystal clear that Babylon is America. Not only is it the final captivity, all right, that the Israelites will be in, it's the final rulership, before the Heavenly Father ushered in the kingdom of heaven, the throne of David, the government that YAHAWASHI is going to establish on earth. All right, the throne of David. Before that happened, who would be in rulership? Esau, Edom would have the fatness of the earth, his blessing. And that's fulfilled in this Babylon the Great we read about in Revelation the 18th chapter. Now, when you think Babylon, all right, you have to understand in the scriptures, the Bible speaks of the Babel, which means confusion. That goes back to Nimrod, the Cushites, the first the well-known civilization after the flood, the Cushites. And you had Nimrod, which is Ham's, one of Noah's sons, his grandson. He had this great empire. All right. And then later on in the Holy Scriptures, you read about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. All right. And that was ran by the Assyrians. Okay. Which are Shemitic. And ultimately, you had the Chaldeans, and it's a lot of history that goes into that. Daniel was on the scene, Jeremiah, Habakkuk, Micah, I believe, were all around, during, Babylon, all right, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. But then when you go into prophecy, it speaks of Babylon the Great, all right, the daughter of Babylon. Okay, it's likened to a lot of things, and one thing that it is likened unto is what? A great city. Okay, now when you go into the scriptures, the Israelites are likened into a great city. Does that mean we're literally a city? No. It's speaking of the believers where the temple dwelt. Okay, so the Bible speaks in symbolism, and also when you go into Revelation, dealing with Babylon and Great, it gives you some clear indicators. Now, I mean, most likely he believes that the city that is speaking of is the Vatican, but with just a few scriptures, we can prove that the Vatican is not, all right, Babylon the Great. And the way we're going to do that, and you can read this all on your own, I'm just going to hit points, just to get to the point. But when you go to the destruction of Babylon the Great, okay, it talks about how the merchants of the earth are going to weep, all right? Revelation 18 and 10, standing afar off for fear of her torments, all right, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. All right, that great city Babylon. Now, as it describes it, okay, it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. All right, and we know that America is a consumer. All right, America is a well-known consumer. All right, so that's one, all right, indicator. Okay, well, I mean, what city is this talking about? That's just this great consuming city where the merchants, all right, the merchants of the earth are going to weep over. Let's listen. It says, and the merchandise of gold and of silver and precious stones and of pearls, and it goes into all of these different, delicacies, that were brought over here, that were sold to over here. All right. It says, let's see here. Verse 15. All right. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar, weeping for her torment. All right. Weeping and wailing. Okay. It says, saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple, linking him to the rich man. All right. It says, in scarlet decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. All right. And America was once known as this, great royal empire. All right. It says, for in 1 hour is so great riches come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off. Okay. So this particular, all right, captivity, Babylon the Great is described as a place of trade, all right, a place of great import. Now let's keep going. And this is the point. It says, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, speaking of the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships, all right, in the sea. See that? By reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. Okay, now when you go to it in the NLT, okay, I'm gonna just go to the point. The ship owners became wealthy by transporting her great wealth on the seas, because America is a consumer state. Now, the proof that the Vatican could not be Babylon the Great is this. How many imports are in the Vatican City? Huh? What are the imports of the Vatican City? The Vatican is basically a commercial economy with no major imports or exports. All right, so the Babylon the Great is known as a great trader. And how do they trade? By sea. We know that's how America makes its money: human trafficking, trafficking minerals, trafficking all types of things, organs, children. They're made rich by the sea. All right, they trade by sea. All right, they are consumer. They get goods brought over to them. These nations are making bank. All right, through what? The imports. How many imports in Vatican City? The top export of the Holy Vatican, our revenue stands at 645K. Oh, really? So the Vatican is not known for imports. Now let's look at America. How many imports in America? Uh-oh. It's up to I don't even know that damn number. All right. 2,567,492. All right. That's the number. Shit. Millions. Okay. How much are America? How many ports? How many exports or exports? Man, 133 billion. Food, oil, 109 billion. So these are the top export businesses. I mean, and there's more. Do foreign cities trade with Vatican City? Not much. Not much going on there. Anyway, when you go to Revelation, the 18th chapter, as it describes Babylon the Great, one of the things that it's known is for its trade by sea. Okay? And it says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God have avenged you on her. So what city is it that, ultimately would make all of this money, okay, and enrich the nations to where they would cry? Because it says right here, the merchants, verse 15, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her. So what city is making all of these nations rich? What city does everything flow through? America. Okay, but let's go back and listen to this guy. All right.
But you hear some people say that the U.S. is Mystery Babylon. Not that it's not as corrupt as Mystery Babylon, but it's a city. It's not a nation.
It's a city, it's not a nation, man. Now, when you go into biblical prophecy, Babylon, okay, is a rulership. It is a kingdom that would rule the earth in end time prophecy. Point blank, period. All right. And it's ran by the biblical Edomites. Okay. Esau is the end of the world. So is this Babylon. Babylon the Great. It would be a rulership where the Israelites would be held captive. Okay. That would have world domination through a beast system. Okay, it's not just this mere little city sitting somewhere that's evil and wicked. No, it's a system of oppression, a wealthy, rich, oppressive nation. Okay? Let's keep listening.
Okay, that being said, real quick, Daniel chapter 7 covers
Here we go.
The nations that will be around in the end times. Mm-hmm. Daniel chapter 7. Mm-hmm. And people can Google these things too. Google or whatever search engine they want to use.
Look, you can't get the breakdown of these scriptures from Google. See, that's what you Jake's problem are, is that goddamn Google, man. There's a lot of misinformation on Google, man. The hell you think? How you where the scripture say you gonna Google the breakdown? You got to go to the men of the Lord for the breakdown. The prophets are the ones who in these latter days are gonna have understanding on these things, man. Now let's listen to what he says about Daniel the 7th chapter.
The lion is Great Britain. The eagle is the U.S., which we already know this.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has the two symbols, the eagle and Uncle Sam. Boom. The bear is Russia.
Yeah.
Leopard. The leopard is Germany with 4 heads.
What are the 4 heads?
They're known for their German tanks and all the rest of that type stuff.
Yeah.
Now we'll go back to him. Let's go to Daniel the 7th chapter. Let's go to Daniel the 7th chapter, man. Yeah, and on Revelation the 18th chapter, after this chapter, pretty much when it talks about Babylon the Great, okay, it talks about how all nations were deceived by her sorceries. What city in the world can you go to that one city that's just got the whole world under sorcery? Where's that city at? Okay, and it clearly describes Babylon the Great, man. Okay, it says, verse 24, and in her, Babylon, does that mean it's a woman now? It's a city? It's a her? Okay, it's many things. You just got to be able to spiritually discern on when to apply things, man, and what they mean in spirit. It says, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints, the Israelites. So this would be, and of all that were slain upon the earth. So the Most High's holy people would be slain here in Babylon the Great. In a very, very brutal way. And there's various other scriptures that describe that. And the very next thing that happens when you keep reading in Revelation the 19th chapter is what? Victory. Once Babylon is destroyed, okay, what does it say? And after these things I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, hallelujah, salvation and glory and honor and power unto the Lord our God, for true and righteous are his judgments. Okay? For he hath judged the great whore which did corrupt, okay, the earth with her fornication, and God hath avenged the blood of his saints. Okay? So this great Babylon is going to be destroyed. But it would be they would do something in particular to the chosen people. All right? And we know what that is. We know what they've done to the Israelites. We know what the Edomites have done to the Israelites. Now, when you go to Daniel the 7th chapter, which this guy, I mean, he just went all the way off, man. Okay? Daniel the 7th chapter, the 4 beasts represents, okay, these particular rulerships that will rise up in the earth. All right. And in these rulerships, all of them have something in particular. Okay. What's that? The Israelites were there, okay, in captivity. Right? These are the 4 beasts. All right. Which, let's get the book of Zechariah real quick. The book of Zechariah, the 1st chapter. Okay. Because these 4 horns, these 4 beasts, all right, are what the Lord used to take us down as a nation for our punishment. After Solomon's reign, okay, the Bible, what we're getting ready to read in Daniel the 7th chapter, okay, the Israelites went into various different captivities. Okay? That's what the Daniel the 7th chapter is primarily going into, those 4 beasts. But it says this in Zechariah, the 1st chapter. It's talking about the, Zechariah 1:18. Then I lifted up mine eyes and I saw, and behold, 4 horns. Horns represents rulership, power. All right, which that's what those beasts are. It says, and I said unto the angel that talk with me, what be these? And he answered, these are the horns which have scattered Israel. All right, Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. All right. They scattered the Israelites, slave trade, different captivities, had us in, wherever, had their way with us. And they had their way with our land. Okay. Now, when you go to Daniel, the 7th chapter, okay, Daniel 7:2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my night vision, all right, by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the sea, all right, and the sea is the people, all right, that's according to Revelation 17, and four great beasts, four great rulerships. Does that mean real beasts? No. Now he's able to gather that these beasts represent rulerships, but he's not able to gather that Babylon the Great is America. All because of the word city. Get the hell out of here, brother. You tripping. It says, and four great beasts came up from the sea, the people, different rulerships. And it says the first was like eagles had, the first was like a lion, okay, and had eagle's wings. All right. This is speaking of the Assyrian Babylonian Empire. Now let's hear his breakdown. And when you go to Google, they ain't going to tell you this BS he talking about. A lot of these Bible scholars know what those different beasts are talking about. Damn, I don't know how to rewind on this.
Is France. The EU is the horns. That being said, yeah, Mike, Steve, FEMA Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, my man? Give me a quick thought.
It's all scriptural. All the stuff's laid out. It's all laid out. Hey, first thing though,
yeah,
that we can get off the table real quick. Mystery Babylon. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's the U.S. It's the U." It's not the U.S. All you got to do is, you don't have to be a Bible scholar or anything. Just use whatever search engine you want to use, and just type in King James Bible Mystery Babylon. It clearly states that it's a city over and over again. It states it's a city, but you hear some people say that the U.S. is Mystery Babylon. Not that it's not as corrupt as Mystery Babylon, but it's a city. It's not a nation. Okay, that being said, real quick, Daniel chapter 7 covers the nations that will be around in the end times. Daniel chapter 7.
And it's covering, when you read this, it's covering not only nations that will be around in end time, but the different rulerships that will rule, okay, and have the Israelites in captivity before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, now let's listen to his breakdown.
And people can Google these things too. Google or whatever search engine they want to use. The lion is Great Britain. The eagle.
He says the lion is Great Britain. Okay, so these different rulerships will rule in end time prophecy. So the lion is Great Britain. Right? When you go here to Daniel, the 7th chapter, okay, it says the first, all right, was like a lion and it had eagle's wings. Again, this is the Assyrian Babylonian Empire. Okay, and you can read in the Holy Scriptures, different prophets prophesied in these empires because the Israelites were in captivity in these empires, but the Lord sent them prophets. Okay? And it says, and I beheld, all right, till the wings were plucked, the Assyrian Empire, all right, pretty much fell. Nineveh fell. All right, and then you had, the Babylonian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. All right, it says, and it lifted up from the earth and made to stand up on the feet as a man, and it was given, a man's heart was given unto it. Speaking of the science of the ancient Babylonians, okay, and their pride, and what they did, the same thing that's happening here today, the different witches and warlocks. Okay, you had the Chaldeans, which were the wise men of that age. You have that same magic being practiced here today in Babylon the Great, and they boast themselves to be the Most High, but ultimately they're just men, all right, and they're proud, all right. But it says, and behold, another beast, a second like unto a bear. Now he says this bear is Russia. So first you got Britain, then you got Russia. No, this bear is speaking of the Medes, okay, the Medo-Persian Empire, okay. Now the bear is Russia in Revelation the 13th chapter, but here in Daniel the 7th chapter, this bear is speaking of the Medo-Persian Empire, okay. And I beheld another beast in the second like unto a bear, and it raised itself up on one side. Okay, the Medes ruled first, and then the Persians. All right, or was it the Persians and then the Medes? I believe, yeah, the Persians and the Medes. The Persians ruled first, I believe, and the Medes ruled second. I believe because Darius was a Mede. All right, because which are Japhetic. The Medes are Japhetic. Okay, but what happened at that time was let's see here. I'm trying to link it up. Anyway, yeah, through Darius, pretty much, there was a decree to continue the Israelites to continue, ruling, and then eventually came Alexander. So I believe the Persians ruled first. All right, verse 6. All right, and when you read it, I mean, we have breakdowns on Daniel the 7th chapter. Okay, so if you want, the full breakdown, pretty much, you can type it in on my page. You can type in GMS Daniel the 7, or you can just ask on the comment board and we'll send you the link. I don't want to go all into it, but as you read, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, a leopard. Okay, because who's that leopard? That's the Greeks. Okay, that's the Greeks, which had upon the back of it 4 wings. And who did he say? This is Germany. Let's listen to him.
Is the U.S., which we already know this.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has the two symbols, the eagle and Uncle Sam. Boom. The bear is Russia.
What the hell does that have to do with anything? And see, this is just your cool uncle or your father, who, is on his way to waking up or something, or trying to get into the Bible. And, he's always been into conspiracies and, Kennedy, the front seat driver killed Kennedy. So now he's getting into the Bible, and he's just going off, and it's all right. We just going through it to tell you going off. You going off, homie. It's all good. All right. Uncle Sam ain't got nothing to do with anything written in Daniel, bro.
Yeah.
Leopard. The leopard is Germany with 4 heads.
He said the leopard is Germany with the 4 heads. Now, the leopard, all right, here is speaking of the Greeks. All right. And lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings. Now, what are the 4 wings? The 4 generals that ruled after Alexander died. Okay. And who was that? Ptolemy, Seleucid, Lysimaeus. No, Ptolemy, Lysimaeus, Cassander, and Seleucid. Okay. Yep. Those are the 4 generals that ruled after Alexander passed away. Okay, and dominion was given unto it. And then you go to the 4th beast, which the 4th beast is Rome. But when you read it, that 4th beast will be revived. A little horn would come forth from it, which is America. Babylon the Great, the final captivity, that which ultimately through that comes the kingdom of heaven. So this dude is going all the way off, man. Everybody's trying to go into Bible prophecy and they're making a damn fool of themselves, man.
They're known for their German tanks and all the rest of that type stuff.
No.
HALAL is France. The EU is the horns. That being said, that's just talking about.
Now, when you go into Daniel, the 2nd chapter, it speaks of the 10 toes. That's ultimately the European Union, and they're divided in these times, man. Okay. But what he's talking about, all right, he's off, all right, going into the Holy Scriptures, man. He's going off.
The end time nations that will be around at the end times.
Yeah.
And then you go to Revelation chapter 13, which is during the time that the Antichrist is in power. Which, how do you know that? Because now those 10 horns or whatever, they have crowns on them, and it's.
You see that? He's going all the way off. All right, the 10 common markets. That's pretty much the vassals to this modern day Roman Empire, which are fulfilled, all right, in the European Union, all right, and NATO is a part of it as well. That's the beast system that will rule in end time prophecy. All right, now he said, Revelation the 13th chapter.
Says that basically the guy's running things.
He said the Antichrist is ruling. Well, what scripture is that? Now, when you deal with the Antichrist, you listening to too many Dabu 7 videos, man. The Antichrist is on his way. The fuck out of here, man. All right, the Bible ain't dealing with that. Excuse my French. The Antichrist when you read First John 2:18, it says, "Little children, it is the last time as you have heard that the anti-Messiah shall come. Even now are there many anti-Messiahs." So it's not just one anti-Messiah. It's a spirit, and ultimately it was dealing with our people, all right, who were denying YAHAWASHI, man. But ultimately it's a spirit that's forwarded in the earth through the rulers too, to deny YAHAWASHI. We're living in the anti-Messiah, but there's many anti-Messiahs, man. Okay? It don't have anything to do, all right, with the ruler in end time prophecy, really, when you're going into this. And speaking of, ultimately, let's prove it. It says, verse 19, and there's many anti-Messiahs. That's how you know we're at the last time. And you're seeing that here in Israel. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. All right. So speaking of men, speaking of men who will follow in the church, but it's also a spirit too. That is in this world, the spirit of anti-Messiah, man. The spirit of rebellion against the man, rebellion against order. So where is this one Antichrist? Now the scriptures does tell you that the man of sin, all right, what is sin? Transgression of the law. Babylon the Great, this great city, okay, this great country, okay, ultimately would push all sorts of anti-Messiah behavior and laws, man. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Second Thessalonians chapter 2. And let's see here. Let me go in here with the brothers in a minute. Hold up. It says, verse 8, "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders." So the man of sin, which is fulfilled in a nation of people, would be ruling in end time prophecy, but they would come to do the working of Satan. All right, but when you deal with this whole Antichrist vibration that these dudes push, there's like this one ruler, this one Antichrist that's ruling somewhere. He's 4,000 years old. He survives off of blood and fire. Like what are they talking? He's at the game. You know, he got a favorite boxer. No, this ain't the anti-Messiah. All right, because that's, the true Christians were followers of Hamashiach. Okay, was really dealing with a spirit of rebellion against YAHAWASHI. So what the hell, where does it say the Antichrist is going to rule This one antichrist is going to rule in end time prophecy. All right, you got Israelites that even go off on that garbage, man.
The thing for anybody living here in the U.S., I'm specifically talking about people who live here in the U.S., nowhere else.
Yeah. Hey, man.
The difference is,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, no,
chapter 13,
yeah. Go finish up for me.
In chapter 13, Revelation chapter 13, the eagle's wings are not there anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The eagle's wings are not there anymore, which means two things. It could be good or bad. Either the U.S. is destroyed,
yeah,
or the U.S. kind of backs off of that Antichrist system.
What?
Or somewhat.
Well, hey,
it's only one or two.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and that's the timing of things, like, well, because they meaning the global orchestrators of this experience, they're trying to basically remove borders and unify nations. So I remember seeing visual aids about how they're going to try to reunite Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. together and call it some particular name. So if they were to succeed from that standpoint of trying to just knock down borders, put us all together so that it makes it easier to consolidate power under one government with one currency and one everything like that. I don't know the timing of all that, but biblically speaking, that's the evil one's objective in the long run, I think. So, how it plays out, who knows? But these events we're experiencing now definitely play into it at some extent, some level. You know what I'm saying? So, but hey, let me get some more calls, man. I appreciate you as always.
Yeah, no.
And who's the major player in all of this that's going on? America. Not the Vatican City, not this one city somewhere. It's America. Okay? And what the hell is that dude talking about? See, this is why you all should just put the scriptures down and listen to the prophets, man. But the Lord also set up false prophets, so we get it. He's all over the place, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I guess the big thing is the only thing that people should hear in the U.S. I'm talking about the U.S., not the rest of the world. Here, chapter 7, the eagle's wings are there in Daniel chapter 7. Mm-hmm. In Revelation 13, the eagle's wings are not there. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the.
Now let's what the hell is he talking about? Now, the eagle in Daniel the 7th chapter. Or the eagle's wings, Daniel the 7th chapter is speaking of the Assyrian Babylonian Empire. It said it was like a lion with eagle's wings. Let's look up the Assyrian. Let's look up an Assyrian god. Assyrian lion, winged lion. Okay, the Assyrian, this is speaking of the Assyrians, bro. Okay, that was one of the gods they worshipped. Half man, half beast spirit. That spirit is back here today, but yeah. Lamasu, Assyrian deity predicted as a goddess in Sumerian times. All right, and that's pretty much all that was. There you go. Okay, that's not talking about anything that has to do with America. Now, in prophecy, America is likened unto Assyria at particular times because of their great army and how their oppressive ways. But, this eagle's wings, all right, the lion with eagle's wings is speaking of the Assyrian Empire. Now, when you go to Revelation 13, where is he talking about? Okay. Matter of fact, we'll start at 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the earth. And this whole chapter is dealing with Esau's rulership. And at the very end of it, all right, according to the Bible, what he would try to do is what you read in verse 16 and 17. Okay, and he calls it all right, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, all right, to charagma, all right, as you can read it, you see it, all right, it would, a system that would change the way you, sustained yourself, bought and sold, it would be here, all right. It says, and I stood up on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads. This is speaking of Esau's full power structure. Okay, 7 heads. The Greeks, because the beast system started with the Greeks, the Romans, Germania Major, Germania Minor, the French, the Spanish. Then you have the British. Out of the British came America, which, when you go into Revelation, the 17th chapter, it tells you the 8th was technically of the 7th. Okay, because out of British came the 13 colonies, which is America. And that's all in Revelation, the 17th chapter. We have lessons on all of these things, but I'm just kind of rushing through here. And you have the 10 horns, which are the vassal states. Okay, at the time of Rome, you had, I forget the names of them, the Sueves, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, in those various different nations, which a vassal is pretty much a subordinate nation. They operate in their own little way, but they give their power unto the superior, which was Rome. And this time you have that very relationship with America and the EU and NATO countries, all right, which in these times they're divided, all right, which they're going to be used to destroy one another. Now, and upon the name, the heads of blasphemy, all right? And it's saying they have 10 crowns upon their heads, because they pretty much, Esau has the fatness of the earth in this time. So he's able to expand more, do more, have more power, have more reign, okay? And through this beast system, he controls the earth. It says, and the beast, which I saw, was like unto a leopard, because this beast system started with the leopards, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. That's speaking of Russia. All right, because through Russia, all of this is going to be ended. Okay, and that links up when you look up that word bear. It's likened, when you go to the root word, it's likened to a protector. All right, let's read it here real quick. It says a bear, then it says just a bear, but then when you go to the root word, or keho, it says to be possessed of unfailing strength. And Russia is getting back into that Soviet spirit, to be strong, to suffice, to defend, to ward off. Now, that's what Russia is being used for in these latter days. In prophecy, it said, Magog, it would be a guard unto these various different nations. All right, so we see all of this stuff playing out. So Russia is the bear here, but when he was talking about the bear, was speaking of the Persians and the Medes, man. So this dude is all over the place, man. All right. And it says, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon, which is the ancient Roman Empire. Okay. And the same laws and pretty much the same way ancient Rome ruled is the same way America ruled. Okay. And it was Rome where Esau got the height of his power. It was through that Roman system where he was able to, conquer more. And eventually the Western Roman Empire fell. Jake ruled, okay, for a period of 1,000 years, the Byzantine Empire, Dark Ages. And then from that came the Renaissance, which was the rebirth of Rome, which through that led all the way up to what we know as America, which is Babylon the Great, the NATO, and the EU, okay? So, and the dragon gave him his power and seat and great authority. Rome, it was through Rome, and the revival of Rome is going to be even more powerful, which is America, which is Babylon the Great. Okay, and I saw one of his heads as it was wounded unto death. Okay, the Western Roman Empire fell, and the deadly wound was healed. It was healed through the Renaissance, which you're living in is an end result of that Renaissance. America, the revival of ancient Rome. All right, but anyway.
The hope. Here's the hope. Anyway, I don't know if the U.S. will be destroyed or blah blah blah. I don't know that.
Yeah.
but here's the hope out of that.
Mm-hmm.
See, really, and they're talking about the prophets. You know, they're really, you know, they're tired of hearing us. They're trying to act like, well, nah, I got the breakdown. You know, old cat with a ponytail, you know, thinking he know the scriptures. You know, them old cats, man. You know, and you're wrong. You may be a cool Jake, but you're wrong. You're going off. Let's listen to him.
Revelation 12:14.
Oh, Lord.
Talks about when Israel is going through their thing and the Antichrist is going for their throat, that there's the eagle's wings are provided. If that makes sense.
Right. Hey, man, I appreciate you, man.
So anyway,
we got to get a biblical scholar, a couple of biblical scholars to break that down for us. But thanks for calling, man.
all right, bro.
Be good.
Yeah, because he basically like, we ain't finna listen to your breakdown. Got to get some biblical scholar, and and when you go into Revelation, the 12th chapter, okay. Revelation, the 12th chapter. And the 14th verse, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she was nourished for a time and times and a dividing of times from the face of the serpent. And that's ultimately the spirit guiding us over here to the Americas at the end of the day. Okay? And ultimately the elect will wake up in the latter days. All right, pretty much the truth will be preserved. The Lord will restore the prophets, but this is that place. All right, this is where we're dead bodies, but ultimately we rose on our feet. Okay, after coming from West Africa and the various different places we were scattered, eventually prophecy led us over here to the Americas, man. Okay? And the serpent, as it jumps back into prophecy, and the serpent casts out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. This goes back into 70 AD, because that's what led to us fleeing into the interiors of Africa and eventually through the process of time being brought, all right, to the Americas. It says, and the serpent cast out water out of his mouth as a flood. That's the Roman military and army. After the woman is Israel, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. All right, he was putting us to death, you know. And the earth helped the woman. Okay, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, all right, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Eventually the Lord had provision for us, all right, to where ultimately we could settle in different parts of the earth. Okay, pretty much the Lord, the temple was sacked, all of that. And eventually we will be scattered in these various different places, okay? And we would settle, and prophecy would eventually be fulfilled for us to what? Be brought over here to the Americas, man. Which over here, this is going to happen. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. Now, who's the dragon? The ancient Roman Empire was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of YAHAWASHI HaMashiach. And ultimately, that's in these times, man. So it jumps in and out of prophecy, you know, and prophecy is all over the place. And that's why it's a snare unto the unnatural man. I just wanted to go into that, man. That dude's through, man. Shalom.